Hi everyone, in this video tutorial I'm going to introduce you to new functions of Surface Controller in Para 2.8. For this tutorial you need to have a surface, which I have made it using three splines, a cross section on top, a surface modifier, and eventually a edit body modifier to pass the geometry information to Para 3D. And you are going to need an editable mesh or any other type of objects that we have used as panels in previous tutorials. Since I'm going to explain some features of Surface Controller that works only under two-dimensional array, we're going to array this in 2 dimensions. So we're going to have 10 items in row and let's say 8 items in other dimension. I will keep the original object as well. As I'm going to use Surface Controller to manipulate the vertices of the editable mesh, I will say yes to this question. And let's go under Object category and find the vertices of the mesh. Select them all and assign one instance Surface Controller to all the vertices. So for that, we choose the Surface Controller from the library, we drag it here and we choose instance, and it just creates this one Surface Controller for all vertices. Here is my Surface Controller 001, and I'm gonna pick the surface which I have made before by clicking on that. And as you can see, since my array is two-dimensional, the surface domain is automatically has been set to 2D. And what that means is that the Surface Controller is going to map a two-dimensional grid on the surface, and the grid itself is being divided into rows and columns according to the number of items that we have in our array. Before I update my array, I need to assign the subobject controller to UVW offsets to set up the UVW offsets for each vertex. So from controller library, we search for subobject controller and we drag one instance here. And now if you just update the array, if I can hide my main surface, well, here's the result. A grid has been created with 10 items in horizontal direction and 8 items in vertical direction. These directions, we call them the principal direction of the surface, and they're associated with two parameters u and v. And as you can see under 2D domain options, there's an option for direction that you can switch between uv and vu, and once you change that, you'll get 10 items in the vertical direction and 8 items in horizontal. And there are more other options here that we'll just leave them for now. I'm going to get back to them later. And today we're going to discuss a little bit about the spacing options, as these options are totally new in Para 2.8. As default, you see that under the U and V directions, you got the fixed numbers checked for both options, and then that means the surface is being divided into the number of divisions given by number of items in both U and V direction. Also, you have another option to subdivide the grid based on the fixed distance that you specify here. So to see how this works, we're just going to check the fixed distance in U direction. And as this distance given here is 1 unit, you don't see properly the panel, so we're just going to make this like 5. And as you increase this, you can see the more area of the surface is being covered. We're just going to unhide the actual surface here, and then let's go to shaded mode, and then we can check it from the other side. The surface is being divided in 8 divisions in V direction, but in U direction is being divided in such a way that the distance between these items in this direction is always 8 units. And also you should consider that you still have the fixed number of the panels. But as you can see, not all of the panels are in the same width. So from one row to another, the width is changing. And the reason to that is you always have the fixed number of the divisions among your surface. I'm just going to remove the auto update for now and start changing the measuring belt. And as you can see, when I change the value in measuring belt under U direction, a red curve appears on the screen, and it shows the location of the measuring belt. Surface controller uses this curve to subdivide the surface by given distance. And also you can see green one, which is associated with V direction. You can adjust the location of this measuring belt along the V direction. Now let's find out what's happening with surface controller when I'm changing these parameters. Let's say you set the measuring belt in V direction to 0, and it goes to the bottom of the surface. You can see that here. In this case, the surface controller consider this curve as your measuring belt, and it subdivides it to distance 8 units. From there it takes the divisions. The rest of items just follows that division. So if I update this, as you can see, the items here, the bottom of the surface now are in the length of 8, or I can change them to 12 for example. But when I move the measuring belt to top, which is the 100%, we update the array. We got the items of on top of the surface in length of 12, and the rest of array just follows that particular row in here. So it depends where you actually set the measuring belt. Surface is being subdivided based on that. We can do the same in opposite direction. Let's say we go for fixed distance in V, and then we choose 8. Now what is controlling the division is the measuring belt in U direction. I can keep it in the center, like 50. These items now are 8 units in V direction. I can push the measuring belt to the end of surface, 100. Now this is my end, and now if I update the array, items here are following the fixed distance value, and the rest of the array just follows that divisions. And you can just simply click on the set array count number to cover the entire array using this. Okay, I'm going to reduce it again to 18 by 10. You can also subdivide a surface with different number of items in one row. For that you need to uncheck the fixed number option. Well, I'm just going to check the fixed distance in U, but for the number of items we uncheck the U option. So what happens is now my surface is going to be divided in fixed number of divisions in V direction. In U direction, it always gives me 12 units length for each panel. It subdivided the surface in V direction, but in U direction it always keeps 12 units distance between each item. So that's why you don't see the grid anymore. And you can also keep these items as well in a fixed length by checking the fixed distance under V direction. To cover the entire surface, again you can just set the array count number to the number of the polygons. Probably need more items, and let's see, if you go with 25. Yeah, and to avoid these panels at the end of the surface, you can just trim the array in U direction. and it gives you the fixed boundary over here. I guess it was a little complicated, but once you start with the playing with these options, you will find that there are many possibilities using surface controller in order to subdivide surface in a two-dimensional domain in many different ways that you can imagine. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to post in the forum and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching and see you next time.